Damn, son, where'd you find this?
People don't be offended by the truth. They be offended because you called out the truth. Simple as that. They don't want to hear any other narrative that makes them look bad.
One thing I can't stand at this big grown age is somebody who act like cause and effect does not exist. Like, yes, your actions caused this outcome. Yes, what you did lit the match. Like, why are you surprised and playing victim?
Guys, Chico, they never lie.
That's how you know somebody doesn't respect you. They listen to reply, not to be understood. They cut you off. They minimize what actually matters to you. They laugh at your boundaries, and then they call you sensitive when you try to hold the line. They show up late, they cancel last minute, forget the things you've told them, because in their world, your time, your energy, even your voice aren't a priority. They're just an option. You see, there are two kinds of people. Those who adjust when they realize they've actually hurt you, and those who expect you to adjust so they don't have to change. You don't need to be disrespected loudly to be disrespected deeply. Sometimes you'll see it. It's just in their tone, in their patterns, in the silence after your no. Respect isn't what they say when they're watching. It's how they act when they think you'll tolerate it.
Mantra, slave song, slave ship, rip skin, made me rip bones. But no matter how close I am, my ancestors speak. They tell me they're tired of the front on us like we're weak. I haven't been getting sleep. Longing to sing until I surpass peak. Until they think we are equal, please. All I want is peace. My ancestors beat drums until their bones would bleed. Begging the generations remember our story.
What's up? Hey, man. Hey. Glory, praise, and honor to the Most High. There's a lot going on, man. A lot going on, but we here. Apologies for all the hiccups. You know, stuff happens. You know, I stubbed my toe one too many times to, you know, it is what it is. We here though. I got Sydney up here. I'm gonna bring her up to the main portion of the screen. I got a clip. Well, I got two clips I'm gonna play. Sid, what's up?
Hello, good morning. Happy Veterans Day to everyone. Thank you for any service members for all you've done, your dedication to the country. So I hope all of you guys enjoy a day off if you were able to get a day off from your work. But yeah, thank you for being here.
All right. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna bring this first clip up on the screen. I have another one that's a little more lengthier. The gentleman of conversation here is getting scrutinized for following adult actresses. Now you have a mixed reaction. You have people who are looking at him, well, you're a Christian. How, as a Christian man, are you trying to represent us when you are following this? And then you have other people that, well, you'll see here in this first one. Let me bring it up.
Rep and now U.S. Senate candidate James Talarico. It was announced in some article that he was following sex workers on social media. And if you know State Rep James Talarico, you know that he is a devout Christian and is very open about his faith. So a lot of people are critiquing him or judging him and passing and casting judgment, saying, why would a Christian, such a devout Christian, be following these sex workers on social media? Well, James Talarico and his team actually responded. And they said James Talarico didn't know that was these women's profession when he followed them. But now that it has been brought to our attention that these people are in this certain industry, get money. He said, hey, look here. My faith calls for me to not judge them. And if what they're doing is providing for their family, and that is what they're choosing to do and making an autonomous decision as adults, do your thug thing. My boy said, ain't no pressure. Ain't no pressure. That's what I'm talking about, Talarico. That's what I'm talking about. Don't these folks pressure you. Like, if you follow them folks, you follow them folks. And They're voters too if they live in Texas. They're Americans too. They're people and human beings too. And on the app that he chose to follow them on, that we're not allowed to say on here, you can't even see nothing on there. So it's perfectly reasonable that he did not know that was their profession. Hey man, vote for James Talarico for Texas U.S. Senate in 2026.
All right, that's clip number one. What are we talking about here? Is there what's your initial thoughts on this clip and how the mixed reactions are towards him?
I always find it ironic how, first of all, these politicians are, especially from these regions that are supposedly so religious and value and promote family values. These are what do they call it? The things that they stand on when they run for president when they run for these offices. That's literally what they vouch to people when they're campaigning, is they say that they have family values. They want to respect the common man. They love God, and they want to carry that into their position and encourage that in their community. And then they do stuff like this. And I always find it especially ironic that they still are able to get support, that people are still excusing the behavior and apologizing for these individuals, even though essentially they're lying. Because what kind of Christian values, what kind of family values do you have if you're willing to take advantage of people that have been pulled into the system because of various life circumstances? Because, as we know, people don't just become workers because they had a good life and went to school and just decided to do that. Most people end up in that situation because something happened to them, or they were enticed to enter. And I just find it extremely ironic that you can have people that are supposedly so devout, so moral, so caring of everyone around them, supposedly, but they're willing to take advantage of vulnerable people. And I don't quite remember if I saw if he was married or not. I'm assuming he's married, but if he is married, that's even worse. But even so, even if he wasn't married, it's still questionable. Like, in the Bible, Jesus was kind to those types of women, but he also wasn't engaging with them. He just encouraged people to treat them kindly. So I still find it really ironic that they can preach about God, preach about Jesus, but not treat people in the way that Jesus would. They still are willing to take advantage of people and sink their money into nefarious purposes.
The thing that scares me about these conversations is you want to be as honest as possible and fair as possible, and knowing that you're going to rub people the wrong way either way. You can't please everybody. There are thousands of Christians that proclaim to be it, and they don't live that life. And they're responsible for turning people away from the church because they're doing contrary to everything that they believe in. But in that same breath, a large number of those self-proclaimed men and women who say that they serve God, or at least they have a level of respect for the word, what they do is they do a lot of good out here. They feed the homeless. They volunteer at shelters. They give money to people here and there. But while they're doing that, they're also gambling on the side. They also got mistresses on the side, or they're doing things under the table. And then they try to rationalize their side work or their side missions with, well, this is all for the betterment of you. So I don't see nothing wrong with me enjoying a little something over here, as long as I'm putting seats in this building, I'm putting money in this building, as long as I'm pouring into the people. What I'm doing off screen shouldn't matter, but it absolutely does matter. It does. And that is why with this particular story, when people say that's his business, he's human, and yeah, that's true, but to be a real example and to really show that God is real and he's operating through you, you cannot be swayed by the opinions of others. You cannot care to get backlash or scrutiny because you walk this fine line. It ain't no excuses. You're going to get held accountable just like a person who walks completely straight and without many blemishes. You're going to be held to the same standard. Why? Because whether or not you believe that that man knew that he was following them or not, which I don't believe, he's still lingering with stuff that is not righteous at all. You're going to lead people astray by having people believe that you can be double-minded. That's the problem. It's okay to lust over here and touch on this here and there, as long as you are doing this over here, like it's supposed to balance it out. Nah, it don't work like that. It work like that for humans. It don't work like that for the creator. I yield the mic.
So I'm looking into his history just because I'm curious what his background is. And he was a school teacher at one point, which I found ironic, even though, I don't know, maybe it didn't bleed into his work, but I always find that a bit ick to find out teachers are engaged in that type of stuff. I'm still trying to see if I can find if he's married or not. It doesn't say on his, I don't think he is, because I can't find anywhere where it talks about that. But he still promotes his values, like here on MSN's review of his character. They say he also draws a substantial media following with over 1 million followers on TikTok, where he balances grounded faith with critiques of partisan extremes. And he earns attention for his blend of populist messaging and Christian values, which, as I said, when you're on a pillar of Christianity for your political career, yet you're acting completely antithetical in a way that's antithetical to being a good Christian. It's like, it makes you think, are you lying about other things too? Is it just this? Like, well, what else could you be hiding? Because as most of us know if you are lying about little things in one area, there's probably other stuff underneath that you're not sharing because, of course, everyone has their deep, deep, dark secrets. And if your more shallow secrets are coming out, it always makes me wonder what else is going on down there. It also is not lost on me that this is in Texas, of all states. Whenever I hear of these politicians that have contradictory values to what they're preaching, it never surprises me when I find out they're in Florida or Texas or like Virginia. Like, so it really seems like he fits in well with a lot of the politicians that are out there right now. Not in a good way, but it's I guess it's not bad for somebody to be using those types of services because, like, I guess if you're not married and you want to do that, whatever, that's your thing. But to me, the problem is promoting religious ideology and encouraging it from your constituents when you're not willing to do it yourself. It's like if a teacher was promoting her kids to do reading and bettering themselves, but she was not interested in learning how to read and she chose to spend her time like doing everything else besides reading and teaching herself, educating herself. And there's so many examples you can use of people acting in contrast to how you expect them to act, especially given their position of power. Because not only is it just morally questionable, but also, I mean, when you deal with crowds like that, you're more likely to become engaged with other types of activities. You're at a higher risk of being exposed or committing certain acts and whatnot. And I've heard many cases of politicians that at first it just seemed like they were just sleeping or paying people for services, but then later you found out that they were also paying people off because they did stuff to them. So I'm not saying that's what he's doing, but it does bring his integrity into question. To be honest, I think that if you are a politician or representing large groups of people, I mean, even if you're like a priest or a principal and stuff like that, like people look up to you and you have to have certain types of values, you shouldn't be doing this stuff. And that's more from an ideological, moral standpoint, where if you're going to be promoting values, if you're going to be a teacher in some respects, you can't have this secret side of you. Like, you should be reflecting the same values that you're trying to encourage in other people. It doesn't look like he is married. I can't find anything about if he's married or not, but oh wait, that looks like a marriage. Oh no, yeah. Even so, just his role in the government, I just don't think it's right for him to carry on like that, especially when it's so visible. It's not like he's really trying to hide it, and the fact that he's trying to defend himself, and also the fact that other people are defending him, it kind of gives you a little insight into other people too, if you're willing to defend people like this.
See, I know people don't just follow people back on their profiles. Most celebrities or anybody in these high positions, they have other people running their channels, managing them. People, you'll spend your entire adult life following people who will never speak to you ever. And if you think you're interacting with them people, chances are it's probably a robot or just management handling their affairs. Anybody who got that type of money and that type of success, they are busy. They don't spend their time on social media. And I'm only bringing that up to say, from the remarks that they brought up about, well, we didn't know, or he didn't know that he was following adult stars. And if I'm playing devil's advocate, maybe he doesn't even get on his own page at all. Some of these people don't even get on there. They don't run them at all. Could that be the case? Maybe. But then, if that's not true, then I got to question your staff. Whoever you're paying to moderate your platform, because they're allowing these type of people on there. They're following them. So if you have people subscribing or engaging with adult actresses, and like, to each his own, you do what you want, but we can't just pretend like there's not a stereotype behind being in any type of proximity with men and women who indulge in a lifestyle that has always been deemed negative. It's impossible. But again, to each his own. Personally, as a concerned citizen and someone who cares about my community and things of that nature, there's just things that I require of somebody who's going to be governing over us. I don't know about nobody else. I need you to have a clean history. And it don't have to be spotless, but it has to be pretty consistent with what you say out of your mouth. You cannot go up here and tell me that you're doing this for us, but then you're doing side quests for another master. Period. And I strongly feel that if more people stood on principles and morality, then a lot of these folks would not be able to finesse the way that they do. I call it grifting. A lot of these people are grifters. I don't even know if that's necessarily the case with him. He could really care about the people. He could really be trying to do a good thing. But as far as I'm concerned, you can't do a good faith without works is dead. You can't be dipping in the pool of morality and swimming in the oasis of sin at the same time. No matter what people try to convince you of, you can't do both. We just don't have the authority or the right to cast stones or judge nobody, because none of us are perfect. I think what this really come down to, and I'm gonna play this next clip here. I think what this really come down to is if this gentleman here can do the job, or should be able to do the job, knowing that there's a part of him that suggests that he dabbles in the dark, because y'all let Trump get away with all of this shit. So I'm assuming there shouldn't be a problem with him doing it. It's a morality thing. I mean, hey, what I don't like, you probably are okay with. I don't want drug dealers running the country. I don't want thieves running the country. Sorry. I don't want corrupt police officers pretending to protect the city and they're out here trafficking kids. I yield the mic. I'm gonna bring this other clip up.
You did bring up a good point that I hadn't thought of. But there is the possibility that it would depend, though, because I would have to see like his follower, how many people he's following. Because I do know, at least in the case of Blue Sky, I don't know which account, probably Facebook or whatever, Instagram, I don't know. But some people will indiscriminately follow anybody that follows them. And that's super common on some sites. And often there are a lot of those types of profiles that are like, they'll send you the hey winky face, and you look at their profile and it's just like pictures of boobs. So there's a possibility that he or his staff just indiscriminately followed anybody that followed them. But as you said, I'm hesitant to believe that because most famous people don't really follow that many people. At least on Blue Sky, which is the social media site I use frequently, most of the really, really famous people have like over hundreds of thousands of followers, but only follow like 6, 12, whatnot. So I find it a little bit fishy that he would be following people, those types of people, along with regular accounts. Again, I would want to see what his what his profile kind of would look like to kind of give us an idea of whether or not he was doing this on purpose or not. But yeah, it also is a good example of the fact that this is not just one side of the aisle. This is prevalent in both Democrats and Republicans. I know there's a common misnomer that it's only the Republicans that act this way, but it's very much both sides. And this isn't something that is exclusive to certain types of people. This could be anyone. I mean, there have even been female politicians that could be found doing the same thing.
Had a phone call, had to take that. So let me say this, right? I agree there are bigger fish to fry. But I think this is what I find interesting about your comment in the chat. This isn't about scrutiny. This isn't about chastisement. This is about acknowledging the fact that there are men and women in certain positions of authority that don't have the intentions or the integrity that you think they have. Now, again, like I said before, he could be a pretty decent guy. He very well could be, but I don't believe that you can be double-minded. It has to be one way or the other. Who are you serving? You can't serve two masters. Of course, that's my perspective. I've seen it too much where a person is living double lifestyles. And it always ends up bad for the person because you are consistently choosing to do things on one side and on the other side. So you have these conflicting situations playing out in your life, you're going to have to address both of them at some point. You can't call yourself or consider yourself an example for the people when you are here and there. Like, if you want to be out here messing around like that and sleeping around like that, that's on you. I have a problem with you trying to make me feel like it's okay or it's supposed to be acceptable. There's just some things that's not acceptable. And it's getting to the point to where you're going to see a lot more men and women in positions like this, where we're going to make it okay to live a certain type of lifestyle, even though it goes against the word. Antichrist. A bunch of antichrist. I know people don't like that word. I know it makes people uncomfortable, but it's the truth. How many kids have been led astray? How many adults have been led astray by people that they thought were for the betterment of society, but they had their own agendas? You see it all the time in the classroom, in the courtroom, in the jail system. It's everywhere. You can't avoid it. Christians who pretend to be Christians, they're going to have to deal with how they've lived. We can't afford to continue to have people living double lives, affecting others to the same extent. It's never about one person for me. See, you think that this is about just James. This ain't just about him. This is about what he represents. This is about how similar he is to a number of other adults who live just like this. Put it this way. If you were going to hire somebody for a dangerous job and you're paying them $40, $50 an hour, that's a lot of money. And the job that they're about to take on is very dangerous. So much so that they could lose their life doing the job. They lie on their resume. They tell you they got X amount of years of experience. They've never done the job a day in their life. But they dress up their resume exquisitely. They get the job. Them YouTube videos they watched, they learned them DIYs. So they figure, oh, well, I got experience because I watched all of this. And then they end up destroying a whole block. A whole community is without power, or something goes wrong on an oil rig or something. And then somebody loses their life because of their inadequacy. How would you feel? You brought them on. They convinced you that they were capable of doing the job. That's how I feel about most of these people. You can't do this job and be doing all of this other stuff. Tiffany Henyard got excommunicated from her position because she told Chicago that she was going to take care of them, that she cared about them people. And then she got exposed for stealing money, for taking money, going on vacations. She was spending the community's money on her own lifestyle. This is a government official. She abused her position and power, but she was smiling all on the camera. She was confessing to be this holier than thou woman, and she was doing all of these beautiful things for the public, but the whole time she was screwing the public over. She was abusing the system. That's the problem. It has nothing to do with him for me personally. It's about the character within the person. That's the issue. And we have too many that walk around in sheep's clothing pretending to be that person, that beacon of light, and they're not. Do what you want. Be whatever you want. But I don't feel comfortable with you looking over nothing. I yield the mic.
I want to touch on the same question as well. I just want to push back against the idea that we're upset about this, because it's definitely not something that I'm not surprised. And to be honest, he's one of the more mild, moderate examples out of many, many others that have done way more terrible things. He clearly, or at least from what we know, he has not actually been committing things that are actually illegal. He's only following people that are of questionable character. And it's more so a critique of the fact that he has this moral standing, but he also has contradictory behavior to that. And again, we don't even know if he's fully responsible for that or if it's just like his staff or whatever. And I do want to touch on the fact that he does have a lot of valuable, behavior in his position. He, as I said, he's in Texas, and he was one of the major voices in opposing the use of 10 Commandments in Texas public schools. He was extremely outspoken about it, and he himself called it un-American and un-Christian, and it ended up not being signed into law. He also has been very, very openly against Christian nationalism in the United States, and he has accused them of being harmful to the LGBT community, being harmful to the scientific community, being obsessed with money, fear-mongering. He's called many of them fascist. So he does have a lot of valuable contributions via his position. He also has started a program for school children that bring technology into low-income classrooms. And so we're not saying he's a bad person, because a lot of these politicians have gotten into this position because they do care. They want to help make things better for their communities, particularly ones that they feel a passion for. But we mostly want to point out the irony of somebody that does use their values, but also goes against their values publicly, at least if this is true that he's following people like that. And again, there's nothing wrong with following individuals like that, but in positions of power, you really have to be more conservative with how you behave on social media. I mean, it's no surprise that people in even basic positions, like in office jobs and even fast food restaurants, they get fired for less. They give an opinion on social media, they post a nude on social media or something like that, and they get fired by their business. There have been teachers getting fired for posting TikTok videos. There are people getting fired for expressing their opinions on social media. There's all sorts of reasons people have been let go from their job because of things that they said. And so it's, to me, it's a little bit ironic that we're trying to give people of extra visibility and extra power more leeway than individuals in normal jobs would be able to have. They don't afford the luxury to low income individuals in low power positions the same freedoms as some of these high powered individuals. I mean, we already see what types of things our own president has been associated with, yet he's still in office. And again, he's a very minor example. He's not the worst of the worst. There are far more nefarious individuals who have actually committed real crimes, who have actually hurt people. But it's just kind of addressing the spectrum, showing that just because they preach a certain way doesn't mean that they live that certain way. And that's also why it's really important to vet everyone that is being elected. Like, make sure when you're voting for somebody that you know what they're doing, what they're saying, because sometimes what they put up in the public face might not actually reflect how they're going to act. Granted, he does seem to be promoting Christianity in other ways. He does seem to be doing good work in the realms that he is he's been working. But it still is something that is worth discussing because, again, this isn't an isolated incident. This is something that is very common in politics, and it does add to that discussion of whether or not politicians should be able to participate in this type of stuff. Whether, obviously, I don't think is an impeachable offense. I don't think he should be fired for just following people on social media. But it is still part of the whole spectrum of how do we treat politicians and powerful people who who act in certain ways that are unbecoming of their image.
Your integrity means everything. What's the point of having a firefighter if they don't want to fight the fire? What's the point? Right, it don't make no sense. Would you want somebody who works at, how can I put this? Everybody has a gift, and depending on the job, only a select few can do that job. There are prerequisites that come with those positions. If you're going to be a firefighter, you already know the odds are you're going to have to put your life on the line to save somebody. You know what comes with that, the dangers. You might not make it out of that burning house. If you're an officer, you know you might end up in a situation where it's you or the other person. You know, if you are working a cash register at McDonald's, you're going to deal with some disgruntled customers. You just know what comes with the territory. In layman terms, you understand the assignment. So integrity is so important because it rubs off on everybody eventually. You worship celebrities. Why? Some of you want to live vicariously through them. Some of you are inspired to be rappers and actors. So you want to emulate them people. You look to them as inspiration. Whatever it is, you cannot be like, you can't be an officer and then you cheating on your wife or your husband. You can do it, but you're now, this is how I look at it. if you are following adult actors and actresses, that's fine. Whatever. That's not my business. What becomes my business is, well, if you're following them, does that mean that you are interacting with them? Not my business either. If you are interacting with them, what else are you indulging in that I don't know about? How far does this go? Does this go just beyond you following these people? Are you engaging in other activities that might make you look bad? Why do you think folks don't be wanting paparazzi in their face? Why people want their children off camera? You know how this world works. Society will paint you in such a horrible position that it could ruin your brand, it could ruin your privacy, it can destroy anything that you were trying to build. Nobody's going to take somebody serious who has a addiction to drugs. You're not going to take somebody serious for being a racist. You're not going to have the same level of respect for somebody who is questionable with their morale. No, their morale. Like, instead of looking at this like someone's being stoned, I would offer, or I would invite people to look at this like maybe we need to sit back, remove our biases and our personal feelings, and ask ourselves, would I want this for me personally? Would you want somebody who spent 10 years in jail as a registered sex offender being the mayor or running for office? Would you trust them? Would you trust a thief? You probably wouldn't. That's why I say at the beginning of the stream, it's scary that you have adults who are very smooth, very articulate with their words. They're very crafty. They know how to entertain an audience, and they can get over very well and lead you astray the entire time, and you wouldn't even know it. That's the scary part. When you have when you're abusing your gift in a demonic way, in a sinful, in a carnal way, in a selfish way. That is my position. That is what bothers me. That is my concern. It has nothing to do with you wanting to live the life that you want to live, how you want to live, and you can do that all you want. I don't want thieves living next door to me, though. I yield the mic.
Yeah, I definitely agree with where you're coming from. It's the whole idea that you're never going to agree with everyone. Nobody's ever going to live the same way. People are always going to have a lifestyle that differs from your own. And the point really is to live your own life in the way that makes you happy, as long as you're not infringing on other people's as long as you're not causing other people pain or infringing on their freedom. But it's still to understand who other people are and kind of respect and allow the people in your life that resonate with the values that matter to you. And politicians are supposed to be representing their constituents. And if you're running on a platform where you know your constituents are going to have more family values and they're going to be more focused on moral purposes, it's a bit ironic to act in a way that goes against that. Granted, we don't know if this is actually leaking into his work, and I think if you're going to lead a lifestyle that goes against your work, but you're able to kind of keep those things separate as long as it doesn't affect your job and your abilities within your job, I suppose it's not that big of an issue. However, it's very well in the rights of any voters to choose not to vote for you because they believe that they aren't reflecting the values that they want. And so, even if he is a good politician, he still, we as voters have the right to understand how the politicians are living because, again, these aren't people that are running the McDonald's or the Starbucks down the street. These aren't people that are like fixing your car tires and whatnot. People that have sway and essentially control over other people should be vetted far more rigorously than people that just have average jobs. As I said, I find it kind of sad that it seems to be flipped right now where people can be fired for nothing, but then we have other people in positions of extreme power who have done way, way worse and are still there. But with people that have, as I said, control over other people, teachers, politicians, own president, CEOs of companies, really, they should be scrutinized a lot more. Their behavior should be of way more importance than we give them. I mean, in the past, even like 20, 30 years ago, if a celebrity, or not a celebrity, if like a businessman, a corporate leader, or otherwise was found to have been sleeping with a hooker or something like that, they would immediately be shunned. They would have been kicked out of their position. They would have been widely made fun of in the media. Like people to this day still have not forgotten about Clinton and his experiences. This is something that can be an inescapable image. And so you'd think that if you were in a position of power, you do everything you could to live a life of value and integrity, because we know how important it is to have a positive public image. And so it's a bit interesting, ironic, again, to know what your values are on paper, to vouch for them in public, but then to not actually live them behind the scenes. It's, yeah, and as Colts Knight just pointed out, there is also a double standard, especially right now with the divisiveness that's being sown by the party in charge. They one side of the aisle is definitely more outward with their behaviors, their crimes. Granted, I'm not saying that Democrats don't have their own problems. There are Democrats that have their own problems, but most of the people that I've been seeing are being found for CP or financial fraud and stuff like that. A lot of them are on the right side of the aisle, but people people really like to get at one of the sides over the other just because it's kind of associated with that image now, thanks to the types of people that we have in power. And I think that is unfair to the Democratic side as well, because not all Republicans are terrible people, and not all Democrats are terrible people, but not all Democrats are good people either, even though I know that right now people are trying to pit one against the other. So we definitely shouldn't be basing who they are as people on the side that they're on, but we should be focusing more on how they are behaving. But as I said, as long as you're not allowing your values to leak into your work, I think it's kind of excusable. Um, Personally, I just don't agree with it. Um, like as I said, if you're going to have a position of power, of influence, I feel like you should be as have as much integrity as you possibly can. I don't think it's fair to promote certain imagery but then not act on it. But again, to each their own. If you're not causing harm to another person, then I guess live your life. But do understand that not everyone is going to support you for that behavior. And you could end up losing votes for acting the way that you do. So I guess it's more of a word of caution to anybody that is that falls kind of on that end of the spectrum.
Fair assessment. Use your own discernment, right? My closing remarks. We can all agree to disagree. I think at the end, we all want the same thing. Hopefully. And if not, then that's the real problem. The argument isn't even about him and his practices outside of the uniform. It's about, are we going to get what we are supposed to get and what we deserve as a country from the men and women who take these oaths and decide that they want to step up and do the job. Shout out. Let me go to the comments and shout these folks out. Whether or not we agree or disagree is irrelevant. Your opinions and your points of views matter. I appreciate them, and I'm glad you share your thoughts. We need people to share their thoughts. Without that, we don't have any type of discord. Mike D, I hear you. Nobody is. we know he's human. Then he likes women. We get that. That's not the issue. But I, what's that? Pringasm. Appreciate you and your point of views. Coltonite. Salutes to you. Appreciate you for pulling up. If I slaughtered any of y'all name, it wasn't intentional. Most of us have creator or creative usernames and handles. Yeah, to each his own. Everybody has their own view. I would love to know what y'all says. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think that there's a level of compromise with a person who is straddling the fence? Y'all consider it just being human. But love to know y'all feedback. Let me know. We about to get up out of here. Do have a show later on tonight, 7. Anything you want to add before we close out?
I just want to kind of reiterate what you're saying. Even though not everyone agrees with what we have to say, I always do enjoy hearing alternative perspectives. And I think that's one thing that our country and around the world is really struggling with right now, is that because of how emotionally sensitive everyone has gotten, because of how badly the conversation has degraded and has split us up into 2 or 3 or 4 sides,
people have gotten a lot more indignant of alternate points of view, and infighting is really common now. But I do really appreciate the respectful proposals of different points of view, and it always does add to the conversation, because sometimes it can be a little bit, not boring, but that's not the best word, but just to hear yourself talk isn't always that fun. It is nice to hear other perspectives and kind of hear different points of view, so you can kind of reevaluate how you're thinking and things that you might have missed, or other ways to look at something. So I do really appreciate seeing so much conversation around these issues, and also seeing that people still care. I have, in the past, before I started this podcast, I used to wonder if people even cared about anything anymore, or if people are just more interested in arguing. So it is nice to see that people are interested in actually finding some like commonalities, trying to understand situations, trying to explore the various aspects of issues. And also, just for the politician out there, I also appreciate seeing people support him, and offering him grace, because yeah, we are all human, and I guarantee it, every politician out there has made mistakes. Every politician, every corporate leader, every Starbucks worker has made stupid decisions, has done things that go against what they say and how they supposedly live. And it's good to keep that in mind, that nobody can ever be completely perfect. It's good to explore both sides of that spectrum. So thank you guys for watching, and hope to see you on another episode.
With that being said, you already know the energy. We out. Appreciate y'all. If you need to reach out, you know how. Enjoy the rest of your day. Just in case I don't see you later, drive safe. Don't let nobody stress you out.
Happy Veterans Day.
And happy Veterans Day. Peace.
Mantra, slave song, slave ship,